Ladies and gentlemen, it's finally a football version of the War Rapport Wednesday. Of course, joined with our guy, Mike Gittens. Thank you so much for joining us, my friend. It's finally football. How exciting was it to finally see actual football for Auburn?
UCF on Thursday night.
Wow.
Auburn on Friday night. Stress-free football on Saturday for a change. It was actually very exciting to watch football. A lot of great matchups. The SEC had a lot of great non-conference Power 4 opponents that they played and fared really well in most of those matchups. So, look, the one we're here to talk about was Auburn versus Baylor. It was a great test for Hugh Freeze's squad, and I think this game showed how far they've come.
Absolutely. So let's get right to it. One thing I wanted to talk about is Jackson Arnold. He showed that this guy shows he's a true dual threat guy. Over 100 yards on the ground, over 100 yards in the air, 2 rushing touchdowns. What did you like about his performance, and what do you think could improve in this upcoming week?
Well, in the Monday presser, Hugh Freeze was asked a question by Justin Hokanson of On 3 about his decision making. Now, there weren't a ton of decisions out there for him to make, but Hugh Freeze did like his decision making. Auburn leaned on the run, and that was very encouraging to see because Jackson Arnold has the athleticism to make you play 11 on 11 on defense. And the offense is going to win that more times than not when you have the level of athletes that Auburn has. So Hugh Freeze had his primary mission when he got to the Plains was raise the talent level, catch up to the Georgias and the Alabamas, and he's done that, and I think it showed on Saturday, or I'm sorry, on Friday night. Look, did Auburn play a perfect game offensively? No, but they didn't have to win by multiple scores. I called this one 38-21. Auburn won 38-24. So if you're a betting person, tune into the War Rapport. I got the Tigers dialed in on offense this season.
Oh, look, you might be hitting the Powerball later on. But so we also got to talk about this wide receiver core. Tremendous talent up and down the roster. Cam Coleman, of course, the headliner. Not a lot of action with the wide receivers, but maybe the game didn't call for that. Is that something we should be concerned about, or is that just going to be ironed out later on?
No. What you should take away from that was when Jackson Arnold needed them, they were there. And there's no greater example of this than the pass to Cam Coleman. He is streaking toward the sideline on a deep route, and Jackson Arnold throws it up, and he high points the football and adjusts a little bit. Great throw, great catch, great result of the play. And Auburn I heard a lot of people saying after the game, but Auburn couldn't throw the ball. No, Auburn didn't throw the ball because they didn't have to. If you can lean on the run on the road, keep the ball out of harm's way, you do that. And Baylor's defense couldn't stop a toddler in the run game on Friday. Yeah, I mean, there's no disrespect to them. Dave Aranda is a great defensive coordinator, defensive head coach, but they could not stop Auburn on the ground. They didn't force Auburn to do anything different. And Hugh Freeze fought his demons and said, I'm not going to pass just for the sake of passing. He received so much criticism last year for not running Jarquez Hunter more. So it was encouraging to see him stick with Jackson Arnold, stick with Damari Alston, stick with Jeremiah Cobb. Those guys averaged 6 yards per carry. That's fantastic.
That's in 6 yards per carry. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it at that point. As fancy it would be, like do a play action pass, throw a big bomb just for the sake of it. But you're right. It worked. Be smart, and they came away with a win.
Yeah.
So we'll also talk about this defense. 3 sacks for the Auburn defense, but Sawyer Robertson did have, 400 yards passing. Great to get that defensive pressure on the quarterback. Is there something that we need to be looking for as far as improvement with the Auburn defense?
Pass defense left a lot to be desired in this one, but you have to give Baylor credit. Trigg, the wide receiver, he looked like a cyborg out there. He was insane. And he wasn't even their leading receiver. So at the end of the day, this was a good offensive football team. It's why I gave them 21 points. I just felt like Auburn's defense was going to do what they've been doing, which is bend but don't break at times. So they gave up yards, yes, over 400 yards passing to Sawyer Robertson, but only 65 yards on the ground.
That's crazy.
So, you talk about the double whammy for Baylor. It was Auburn running for over 300 yards, averaging 6 yards per carry. And then conversely, you were not able to run the ball at all. That Auburn defense was not giving up anything on that interior defensive line. This is why I say recruiting wins. I did a segment with our friend Paul Feinbaum last summer talking about recruiting and Auburn catching up to Alabama. In-state recruiting is winning right now. There is no precedent for any Auburn team dominating the Iron Bowl but losing in-state recruiting. You have to win in-state. Alabama is one of the most fertile recruiting grounds in the country, and now that Auburn is winning it regularly, and when I say winning it regularly, I mean winning top-level recruits regularly from the state of Alabama. It's turning up on the field. Hugh Freeze had always pointed to year 3 as pivotal, Rex, in terms of recruiting. He said, if we're not in the top 6 or 7 in recruiting by year 3, everybody here is going to be looking for a job. Well, they did that by year 2. They didn't wait until year 3. And then what that gave them was an opportunity in year 3 to make what seemingly may look like a big jump to a lot of people, but it's always where they should have been in year 3. A lot of attention was given to Alabama and a lot of people's SEC preseason power rankings. My guy Chris Phillips from SEC Unfiltered, high on Bama, high on Kalen DeBoer, high on Ty Simpson.
Well,
we'll get to that later.
Eventually
but I'm telling you, it was the Auburn Tigers that they should have been high on in week 1.
And I wanted to ask about this rushing attack. It's one thing to do what they did against, a group of 5, group of 6 team now. They did this against Baylor. So we had questions about Damari Alston. What did you take away from this rushing attack?
Well, this was the 9th best rushing defense in the Big 12 last year. It was the 9th best passing defense. Statistically, there was about a 0 chance that Baylor was going to stop Auburn from moving the ball offensively. Would Auburn sabotage themselves in the red zone was the question. They didn't do that in this game. But Damari Alston he's better than good. He's a great back.
There you go.
Hugh Freeze said when he got here, he said Damari Alston's a better football player than we gave him credit for coming in the door. Jarquez was pulling the headlines, but Damari has always been a guy. And so if he can stay healthy, I think he got dinged up there in the middle of the game. We saw him late when Auburn needed to close out Baylor. He's going to be one of the better rushers in the SEC. So those guys, I think, split 16 and 16 carries apiece for Jeremiah Cobb and Damari Alston, but mainly because Damari got a little dinged up and had to come out of the game. And so that I expect that ratio to stay in Damari's favor. He's earned that. And I expect him to be one of the better rushers in the SEC. Hard to stop. Now, their next test is Oklahoma. They've got 2. They've got Ball State and South Alabama where they'll tune up the pass game. But I expect come time for Oklahoma, you're going to see Auburn lean on the run again. And
I wanted to actually talk about that Ball State game. Again, on paper, Auburn should be the heavy favorite here. The Ball State couldn't score against Purdue. We know that they are kind of outclassed when it comes to the Plains. Should we be worried, or what should we be looking for with this upcoming game in the home opener against Ball State?
Look, execution. This is about execution. You have built a football team, if you're Hugh Freeze, that you don't look past any opponent, but you should dominate this matchup on talent alone. And only a lack of preparation and bad play calling can sabotage you the next 2 weeks. So, look, Auburn is, I feel, is above that at this point. I hope they're above that at this point. But you've got to stay the course and you've got to keep focused. And I think the way the first 2 years went, Rex, they're going to cherish every single game they play out there where they're going to go get a win.
There you go.
They lost a lot of games they should have won. And I think that this team now understands that nothing is given, everything is earned in the SEC especially. And if they can go out there and they can stay focused from week to week, they'll cover the spread against Ball State. They'll cover the spread versus South Alabama. And then when Oklahoma comes, when they go to Oklahoma, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of game plan Hugh Freeze deploys with Jackson Arnold going against his former team.
Should be really interesting to see how everything unfolds. Now to talk about interesting things. Tallahassee was a scene now, wasn't it? Alabama falls to unranked and looking like a dominant Florida State team. And if you looked on the sidelines, there was a familiar face for Auburn. Gus Malzahn, now the OC for Florida State, former head coach at Auburn and also former head coach at UCF. What did you think about what in the world happened at Tallahassee when Florida State took down Bama?
I watched every second. Look, it was fun watching the Gus bus out there, still rolling over Alabama with the same plays he used 10 years ago when he was doing it. Look, there are a few coaches who have had Alabama's number at times. Gus is one of them. But look, yeah, at the end of the day, I think the story is less about what Florida State is and more about what Alabama isn't anymore. Now, I'll take you back to that same Feinbaum segment I did last August, where Alabama fans jumped all over me, Rex, saying, this Mike guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And it was recruiting. It was about Hugh Freeze winning the state in recruiting. And now that Kalen DeBoer isn't winning the state like Saban was.
Right.
He's not dominating that. And Hugh Freeze was one of the few people who could come in and flip that equation in Auburn's favor. You now have to coach it better than the other guys because Saban had the cushion of, I got more dogs than you always. I'm 2-3 deep at every position, and
Everyone's
that guy's a 5-star.
Right.
Right, yeah. And for the most part, he kept a lot of those players, but they lost a lot as well, too. And I'm sorry, I think that Kalen DeBoer is a better than average coach. I just think the SEC is that tough.
Yes, that's very true.
And he is not Nick Saban. And I think it showed against Florida State in the opener. Look, Alabama has a very tough schedule over the next few weeks. I mean, we could be talking about a 2-loss potentially Alabama team through the first 4 weeks. They've got to play Wisconsin and they've got Georgia in the next 3 weeks, I believe.
And they're at Georgia, aren't they?
Yeah.
Wow.
Look, it's going to be a tough road to hoe in that first 6 games for Alabama. And I don't want to go as far as to say the season could come off the rails early, but it absolutely could.
The potential is there. There are some serious landmines right there for sure. So, as you can see, I had to give Mike the opportunity to enjoy it.
It was such a fun game, Rex. I'm telling you, I love the SEC.
Right.
But Alabama coming back to the pack a little bit, LSU going out and doing what they did versus
in
Clemson.
Death Valley, right?
Looked like the best team in the country.
Absolutely.
You know, you've got South Carolina went on the road, and sorry, that was a home game.
It was a home game, but in Atlanta.
Right.
But, man, that quarterback looked something special.
Yeah. They did something great going out and beating Virginia Tech. You know, it was a good week, I thought, for the SEC.
Absolutely.
In Power 4 play, non-conference. So, look, Alabama is not going away.
Right.
They're going to be there with the potential to deliver devastating losses to people. But I think one of the stories, Rex, is the end of the Alabama quarterback run.
Right.
They had one of the greatest runs of consecutive quarterbacks that we've ever seen, starting in 2017 with Jalen Hurts. Then you had Tua, and then you had Mac Jones. Then you had Bryce Young. Then you had Jalen Milroe. And I think a lot of people thought Ty Simpson honestly was going to be the next best Alabama QB. And when you look at that game, there was a play where he took off running with the ball. Clearly would have gotten the first down.
I remember this play.
And he threw it.
And incomplete.
And it was situational awareness rating 0 if we were playing NCAA. I couldn't believe, I was like, what are we watching? Alabama fans, I hope they appreciate that run that they had from 2017 to
essentially
present. Yeah, because I think it's over.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that Ty Simpson won't be a decent quarterback, but his predecessors were otherworldly.
Right.
And, man, I mean, for a defensive guy, you got to give Saban credit. He knew how to go out and find a quarterback.
Didn't he?
Yeah. And so, look, the SEC is not going to let you off the hook from week to week. I asked Kalen DeBoer this question in his first SEC media days. He kind of said, football is football. Well, the football is a little different in the SEC week in and week out. And when you lose a game like that to Florida State, and you haven't even gotten to SEC play yet.
Florida State had that terrible season last year.
Yeah.
And now they bounce back and they look otherworldly. Now, it's funny, but it's also not surprising. Everyone outside of the SEC footprint is asking was like, why are you guys so mad at him? Meanwhile, in the SEC footprint, everyone's wondering what the buyout is.
Well, Florida State never stopped recruiting.
That's also fair.
They never stopped recruiting. And so those are 5-star athletes over there, too. They've got a lot of great guys. When you match your offensive coordinator and the right quarterback, it has a chance to be game busters. And I think that's what we saw. Now, we'll see if Florida State can keep it up. But certainly, the talent levels are there to beat a team like Bama now, and especially with Nick Saban gone, man, I mean, his ghost will hang over Alabama for a decade.
Yes, at the very minimum at that point. Mike, another great segment. We're finally talking football, but where can people find all your great work, my friend?
You know what to do. Head on over to Twitter and hit follow at Mike Gittens on Twitter, at Mike Gittens _ on Instagram. You can follow us at The War Rapport on every social media platform. But most of all, go on over to YouTube, Rex.
Yes, sir.
Subscribe to the channel and join as a patron. Our game day experience was insane. We have almost 2,000 people in our post game for the Baylor game. I expect that's going to continue to grow as the season goes along.
And we'll see how the rankings fall out now. Auburn probably on the way up because now they got Ball State at home. Should be a great time on the Plains. Mike, thank you so much, my friend. We'll see you next week, y'all.